The social safety net that Canada's most vulnerable people rely upon is being crushed by refugee claimants to Canada. And here, these open borders activists told me that mass immigration to Canada would be good for the economy. Remember when Donald Trump signed his so-called immigration ban and then everybody just completely lost their minds? It was an executive order that the administration said was a necessary step to stop radical Islamic terrorists from coming into the United States. What the Trump administration was really trying to do was just pump the brakes a little on travel to and from broken, lawless, or subversive countries like Somalia or Iran, so that immigration officials could sort out who was one of the good guys and who was a bad guy. It seems pretty fair. Now, this crackdown on illegal immigration and a refugee re-examination prompted a mass exodus of people who were living illegally in the United States to cross the Canadian border. These people knew they would be returned to their countries of origin, so they ran north and claimed refugee status here. And of course, the RCMP carried their bags across the border for them. You can't claim refugee status from the United States. It's not the law, and it's crazy. The United States is the freest country on the planet. But Trudeau's Liberals are ignoring the law and are doing nothing to deter the flood of illegal migration across our southern border. This whole mess, of course, is causing pressure on Canada's social safety net, and now we know just how much. Reuters is blaming Trump for the pressure on Canada's welfare system, but they aren't alone in the blame Trump game. No, The Guardian said that uncertainty caused by Trump's policies pushed asylum seekers to take risky routes into Canada, and then they cited the case of two men from Ghana who lost several fingers to frostbite crossing the border into Manitoba. But it wasn't Trump's policies that spurred people to flood from the United States into Canada. It was Justin Trudeau's sheer stupidity and his adolescent attention-seeking. Remember when our slow-witted Ken doll of a prime minister thought he'd position himself as the anti-Trump? In response to Donald Trump's visa and immigration ban, Trudeau tweeted, "To those fleeing persecution, terror, and war, Canadians will welcome you regardless of your faith. Diversity is our strength. Hashtag welcome to Canada." Trudeau also posted a picture of himself in French welcoming a Syrian girl into the country. Mayor of Toronto John Tory also said, "We understand that as Canadians, we are almost all immigrants and that no one should be excluded on the basis of their ethnicity or nationality." Except no one was excluded on the basis of their ethnicity or nationality. They were excluded because they could not be properly verified because they were coming from failed states. Anyway, it was teenage-level trolling of Canada's largest trading partner and our greatest military ally by the Prime Minister and the Mayor of Toronto. Moronic, if only just on a diplomatic level. But now Toronto is being mugged by reality. In that same Reuters article, you will find the truth. 31% of people sleeping in city-run shelters in January were refugee claimants to Canada, up from nearly 19% the year before. All of this left Toronto booking hotel rooms for refugee claimants to house them through to the end of 2018 at a cost of $20 million to Toronto City taxpayers. These days, though, John Tory's not so sure he should have welcomed everybody with open arms just to suck up to our dim-witted Prime Minister. Tory says now that he cannot take care of the refugees coming to Toronto without the support of other levels of government. And his spokesperson, Don Pete, said that he has raised the issue with the federal government repeatedly. And the federal government says that it will not give cities any more money for asylum seekers. So the burden for these asylum seekers welcomed here by the federal government and Justin Trudeau will fall upon the cities who do not have access to any more federal funds, which means in the end it will fall upon municipal taxpayers to pay for the stupid tweets of Canada's Prime Minister. All refugee claimants to Canada are supposed to be processed within 60 days. But if you go onto the refugee processing website, just to get a first refugee assessment, it now takes up to 15 months. What this means is the fake refugee claimants fleeing their illegal status in the United States are waiting in a queue designed to help legitimate refugees. These lawless migrants are hurting not just the Canadian taxpayer, but real refugees, the very people the system is designed to help. It's hardly compassionate at all when you put it that way. But there's one other group of people that they're actually hurting that nobody seems to be talking about, and that is the Canadian homeless. Canada's homeless, who are overrepresented by veterans and First Nations, are now competing for the same scarce resources with people who broke the law to enter into our country. According to last year's federal homelessness count, Indigenous people, long overrepresented among the homeless, were 9 times more likely to be homeless than non-Indigenous Canadians. Veterans comprised about 5% of the homeless, twice their proportion in the general population. And a study done by the province of Alberta estimates that it costs about $100,000 a year to deal with a chronically homeless person. It's probably much higher now, 3 years after that study was done, but it is a good base number to demonstrate the burden that lack of integration and illegal immigration puts on the homelessness supports in our system. Last year, Montreal was housing Haitian refugee claimants at Olympic Stadium, even as their own government ministers flew up from Haiti to check on their welfare. By the way, you are not a real refugee if your government is concerned about your welfare. And this is only going to get worse, and the cost to Canada as the weather warms up will increase as well. And the moral of the story here is that you need to be careful what you tweet for, because you just might get it. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunreid. Did you know that I have my own weekly full-length show here at The Rebel? It's aptly called The Gun Show, and we talk about issues facing Canadian families. To get access to my show and the rest of our incredible premium content, become a Rebel subscriber today.